The gymnasium had gone completely silent. Not the comfortable silence of an empty room, the held silence of 43 people who had stopped breathing at the same moment, all of them watching the same woman standing in the center of the polished floor with a mop handle in her hand and a termination notice being read aloud 6 feet from her face. Principal Harlan Whitmore's voice filled the space with the practiced warmth of a man who had rehearsed this moment. Quote, 0, he said, his eyes moving across the paper rather than toward her. Quote, 1. He looked up then. He was waiting for something. A flinch, a word, anything he could use. Margaret Osei gave him nothing. She stood in her gray custodian uniform, the collar pressed flat the way she pressed it every morning, and she looked at him with the steady, unhurried expression of someone who had already decided exactly how this was going to end. The gymnasium smelled of industrial floor cleaner and the faint sweetness drifting in from the cafeteria. Tuesday pizza, even now, even in the middle of this. The floor near the far wall was still faintly damp, where she had been working when they called her in. She turned. Slowly. She walked to the bleachers at the side of the room. She leaned the mop handle against the metal frame with the careful, deliberate motion of someone setting down something precious. Then she reached for the dark green canvas tote bag sitting on the bottom bleacher, the one with the shoulder strap repaired 2 winters ago with a strip of iron-on hem tape because the seam had split and she had not seen the point in buying a new one when the old one still had years left in it. She did not open the bag. She simply set it beside her and straightened up and folded her hands in front of her and looked back at Whitmore. Someone in the 3rd row coughed. No one else moved. Vera Hutchins, seated in the 2nd row with her gradebook pressed against her chest, did not look away. Her jaw was tight. Her eyes were bright in the way that eyes get when a person is working very hard not to let their face do what their face wants to do. Whitmore cleared his throat. Quote 2, he said, his voice dropping into something that was almost gentle. Quote 3. Maggie said nothing. She did not blink. And nobody in that gymnasium, not Whitmore, not the 42 staff members watching from folding chairs, not the district HR coordinator standing near the door with a manila envelope in her hands. Nobody understood what Maggie Osei had been carrying in the bottom of that tote bag for the past 6 weeks. But they were about to. Before we go any further, if this story already has you leaning forward, hit that subscribe button right now, because tomorrow's story is one you absolutely cannot miss. Drop a comment and tell us where in the world you're watching from. Now, let's go back to the beginning. The fun is just beginning. Tell us what city you're from in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe. The tension is rising. Who's watching from where? Like and subscribe to the channel. More to come. Tell us in the comments who's from which country, and give us a like and subscribe. The plot thickens. Plot. Let's check our geography. Tell us where you are now. Give the video a thumbs up and subscribe. We're just warming up. Tell us where you're watching from. Give the video a like and hit the subscribe button. The climax is near. Share where you're from, like, and be sure to subscribe. Events are unfolding rapidly. Write your city in the chat, give it a like, and subscribe so you don't get lost. The juiciest part is yet to come. Let's get started. Get to know each other. Where are you from? Like and subscribe right now. The suspense is building. Tell us where you're watching this episode from, and reward us with a like and a subscribe. The excitement is running high. Tell us what city you're from now. Give us a big like and subscribe to the channel. 11 years ago, Margaret Osei walked into Harwell Elementary School for the first time at 6:45 in the morning, 20 minutes before her shift was scheduled to start. She was wearing dark slacks, clean white sneakers, and a gray jacket she had pressed the night before. She carried a canvas tote bag, dark green, both straps intact back then, and inside it, a thermos of coffee she had brewed at home because she did not yet know where the staff room was. She learned the building the way she learned everything, methodically, room by room. The school smelled like chalk dust and the particular sourness of industrial cleaning solution that never quite left the linoleum no matter how many times it was mopped. She noticed that the hallway outside the second-grade classrooms always caught a draft from the north-facing window. She noticed that the cafeteria's ceiling light above the third table flickered every 40 seconds, in a rhythm so consistent she eventually stopped seeing it. She noticed everything. She always had. The children noticed her back. Underscore, underscore, quote underscore 4, underscore, underscore. A. Small boy named Terrell, 7 years old, had stopped in the hallway one morning in her third week, backpack hanging off one shoulder. Quote, 5, quote. She looked at him. Quote, 6, quote, 7, quote. He thought about it. Quote, 8, quote, 9, she said, and kept moving. She lived 12 minutes from the school on foot, third floor of a building on Caldwell Street, where the elevator had not worked in 7 months and probably would not work for 7 more. The apartment had 2 bedrooms. The curtains in the living room were ones she had sewn herself from fabric bought at the remnant bin for $1.40 a yard, a deep blue that turned almost purple in the afternoon light. On the kitchen windowsill, 3 tomato plants grew in recycled cans, 1 from coffee, 2 from crushed tomatoes. And she talked to them in the mornings the way other people talk to the news. Darius had come to live with her 3 years ago, after her daughter passed. He was 5 then. He was 8 now, and he carried a backpack with an iron-on rocket ship on the front pocket, one corner of the patch beginning to lift at the edge. He did his homework at the kitchen table every evening while Maggie made dinner. He was precise about it. Pencil sharpened, eraser clean, paper laid flat. One night, while she was washing dishes and he was working through a page of multiplication, he said, without looking up, quote 10. The faucet was still running. She reached over and turned it off. Quote 11, she said. He shrugged, the way 8-year-olds shrug when they already know the answer and are just being polite about it. Quote 12. She dried her hands on the dish towel. She looked at the back of his head, bent over his homework, pencil moving. She did not answer him that night. She thought about it for 3 days. Harlan Whitmore had arrived at Harwell Elementary 6 years ago with a leather portfolio and a strategic plan printed on district letterhead. He wore shirts that were always the right color for the season. He remembered the names of school board members' spouses. He used the word excellence the way other people used punctuation, constantly, and without thinking about what it meant. The staff had liked him at first, most of them. He had a way of speaking to people that felt like a compliment even when it wasn't. Underscore, underscore, quote underscore 1. 4, underscore, 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 he'd say. Standing in the doorway of a classroom that was about to lose its reading aid, his voice warm and his hands relaxed at his sides. But I have complete confidence in your ability to adapt. 3 aides were gone within his first 2 years. Then a veteran science teacher. Then the school counselor, whose position was restructured into a part-time role that paid $11 an hour. Maggie had watched all of it. She mopped the hallways, and she watched. She first heard Whitmore's name in connection with her own on a Thursday in October, 7 weeks before the gymnasium. She was restocking paper towels in the second-floor supply closet when she heard his voice carrying from the open door of the staff room 12 feet away. Whitmore was saying, his tone careful and measured, quote 18, quote. She could not see who he was talking to. She did not move. Quote 19, quote. A second voice said, the HR coordinator. Quote 20, quote, quote 21, quote. A pause. The sound of a coffee cup being set on a laminate table. Underscore underscore. Quote, underscore 22, underscore underscore. The supply closet smelled of bleach and old cardboard. Maggie stood very still with a roll of paper towels in each hand. She thought about the word clean. She finished restocking the closet. She closed the door behind her. She walked back to the first floor and she mopped the hallway outside the gymnasium with the same steady rhythm she always used, and she did not whistle. That evening, Vera Hutchins caught up with her near the staff exit, coat already on, keys in hand. Vera was 34, with dark circles under her eyes that had been there since September and a habit of starting sentences she didn't finish. "Hey," Vera said. She glanced down the hallway. Empty. "Did Whitmore talk to you today?" "No," Maggie said. Vera's mouth pressed into a line. She lowered her voice. Maggie looked at her. Vera said quickly, as if she needed that to be clear. Quote, 30, Maggie said. Quote, 31, Vera left. Maggie walked home alone in the dark. 12 minutes, up 3 flights of stairs, past the elevator that still hadn't been fixed. She made dinner. She helped Darius with his spelling words. She waited until he was asleep. Then she opened her laptop and pulled up the district's job postings page. The assistant principal position at Harwell Elementary had been listed 4 days ago. She read the qualifications twice. Then she opened a new document and began to type. She submitted the application on a Tuesday morning at 6:52, sitting at the school's front office computer before anyone else had arrived. The hallway outside smelled of fresh floor wax and the cold that had come in through the propped side door. Her hands were steady when she pressed send. She sat for a moment looking at the confirmation screen. Then she picked up her mop bucket and went to work. 11 days passed. Nothing. No acknowledgement. No automated reply. No message from the district HR office. Just silence, clean and complete, the kind that has a shape to it. On the 12th day, Vera found her in the supply closet after school. "Did you hear back?" Vera asked. She was still wearing her lanyard from the day, a laminated photo of her third graders swinging from the clip. "No," Maggie said. Vera leaned against the doorframe. "I asked around, carefully." She paused. Someone in the district office said the position was already in final interviews. Maggie looked at her. "When was it posted?" "Same day you applied." The fluorescent light above them buzzed softly. Maggie set a bottle of cleaning solution on the shelf, label facing out, the way she always did. "Thank you," she said. That night, she sat at the kitchen table after Darius was asleep and opened her laptop. She pulled up the district jobs page. The assistant principal listing for Harwell was still there, but it had been updated. Quietly. A single line added to the qualifications section, near the bottom, easy to miss. Candidates must hold current administrative licensure at the state level or have completed a state-approved certification program within the last 3 years. She had completed her master's in education administration 4 years ago. 4 years, not 3. She stared at the screen. The apartment was quiet, except for the sound of Darius breathing through the baby monitor she still kept on the counter out of habit, even though he was 8 and would have found it embarrassing if he knew. She opened a new folder on her desktop. She named it simply Record. Then she went back to the job posting and took a screenshot. She noted the original posting date, the date she had applied, and compared it to the modification timestamp on the page. The qualification language had been added 9 days after her application was received. 9 days. She printed the screenshot on the small printer wedged between the microwave and the wall. She wrote the dates in the margin in her careful, even handwriting. She placed it in a manila folder. She was not angry, or rather, the anger was there, but it was very far down, under something quieter and more useful. She recognized the shape of what was happening. She had seen it before, in smaller ways, across 11 years. She had watched it happen to others and said nothing, because she had Darius and a rent payment and a broken elevator and not enough margin for the cost of being right out loud. That calculation had changed. She closed the laptop. She checked on Darius. Rocket ship backpack by the door, one shoe already off, library book open face down on the pillow beside him. She pulled the blanket up to his shoulder. She went back to the kitchen table and opened the folder again. The first written warning arrived on a Monday, slipped under the supply closet door sometime between 7 and 7:45 in the morning. A single sheet of district letterhead, formal and clean, informing Margaret Osei that her mopping pattern in the East Corridor had failed to comply with the updated floor care protocol. A protocol, the letter noted, that had been distributed to all custodial staff the previous month. She had never received that distribution. No email, no printed memo, nothing. She read the letter twice. She folded it along its original crease. She placed it in the manila folder. Then she went to the main office and asked the administrative assistant, a quiet woman named Dolores, to print her a copy of the email distribution log for custodial communications over the past 6 weeks. Dolores looked at her over her reading glasses. Quote, 39, quote, 40, Maggie said. Dolores printed it without another word and handed it across the desk. Maggie thanked her and walked back to the supply closet and ran her finger down the list of recipients. Her name was not on it. Her name had never been on it. She added the distribution log to the folder. 3 days later, Vera stopped her in the hallway near the gymnasium, voice low, eyes moving. Underscore, quote underscore, 41, underscore, underscore. Vera said. Davis was the other custodian. White, 51, had worked at Harwell for 3 years. Maggie was quiet for a moment. Vera shook her head. Everything was still. The hallway smelled of cafeteria lunch, something with tomato sauce, and the faint chemical sweetness of the hand sanitizer dispensers on the wall, Maggie said carefully. Vera looked at the floor. Her jaw moved slightly. Quote, 48, quote, she said finally. Quote, 49, quote, 50, quote, 51, quote. Vera looked up, quote, 52, quote. Maggie nodded slowly. She did not say what she was thinking. She went back to work. That evening, Darius was quieter than usual at dinner. He pushed rice around his bowl, his rocket ship backpack still on his back because he'd forgotten to take it off, the way he sometimes did when something was on his mind. Grandma, he said finally. At school today, Marcus said that when grown-ups don't like you, they find a reason. He looked up. Is that true? Maggie set her fork down. She looked at her grandson, 8 years old, still wearing his backpack, asking a question that had taken her 47 years to fully understand. Sometimes, she said, but finding a reason isn't the same as having one. He thought about that. So what do? You make sure, she said, that the record is clear. He nodded, like that made complete sense. He took a bite of rice. She picked her fork back up. Under the table, her free hand rested on the closed manila folder she had carried home in the tote bag. It had 14 pages in it now. The second written warning came 17 days after the first. This one cited tardiness. Specifically, that Margaret Osei had returned from her 30-minute lunch break 3 minutes late on a Wednesday. The letter was precise about it. 3 minutes. It used the word pattern. She checked her timesheet for the Tuesday before that Wednesday. She had stayed 40 minutes past her shift to clean up after a water pipe fitting had leaked in the basement hallway. No one had asked her to stay. She had simply stayed because the hallway needed to be dry before the children arrived in the morning. She had not been compensated for those 40 minutes. She added both documents to the folder. It had 26 pages now. The performance review meeting was scheduled with 24 hours notice, a single printed slip left on top of her supply cart while she was on her lunch break. Whitmore's office, Thursday, 2 p.m. She arrived 2 minutes early. His office smelled of fresh coffee and something cedar-scented, an air freshener plugged into the wall behind his desk. Everything on the desk was arranged in careful parallel lines. He gestured to the chair across from him with an open hand. Quote, 63, quote. He smiled. Quote, 64, quote, 65, quote, she said. He folded his hands on the desk. Quote, 66, quote, he paused. Quote, 67, quote, 68, quote, she said. Quote, 69, quote, his voice was warm, genuinely warm, which was the remarkable thing about him. Quote, on 70. She looked at him steadily. Quote, 71. Something moved behind his eyes, just briefly. Quote, 72. Quote, he said. Quote, 73. Quote, 74, quote. She nodded. Quote, 75, quote, she signed the acknowledgement form. He slid across the desk, not an admission, just confirmation that the meeting had occurred. And she left. In the hallway, she passed Vera without stopping. But Vera fell into step beside her for exactly 4 paces and said, very quietly, underscore, underscore, quote, underscore, 76, underscore, underscore. Maggie said nothing. She kept walking. That night, at 2 in the morning, Vera sat at her kitchen table with one lamp on, and the rest of the house dark, and her father's medication schedule taped to the refrigerator door and her mortgage statement open on the counter. She sat there for a long time. She thought about Mrs. Patterson, who had left because she said it wasn't worth it. She thought about what it cost a person to decide something wasn't worth it. She picked up her phone. She put it down. She picked it up again. She called Maggie. It rang 4 times. Then, Vera. Maggie's voice, quiet, unsurprised, as if she had been expecting the call. Vera said. Her voice cracked slightly on the last word. Underscore, underscore, quote, underscore, 79, underscore, underscore, a pause. The sound of Maggie breathing. Underscore, underscore, quote, underscore, 80, underscore, underscore, Maggie said. Underscore, underscore, quote, underscore, 81, underscore, underscore. Vera talked for 40 minutes. Maggie listened without interrupting, sitting at her kitchen table in the dark with the phone pressed to her ear, the tomato plants on the windowsill, black silhouettes against the orange glow of the street lamp outside. Vera knew about Patterson. She knew about the reading aide before Patterson, a woman named Gloria, who had filed an informal complaint with the district and then quietly resigned 6 weeks later. She knew that Whitmore had a relationship with 2 school board members that went back 11 years, to a different district, a different city. She knew that 3 anonymous complaints had been routed through the State Board of Education in the past 14 months. She knew because she had been the one to file the 3rd one 6 weeks ago from a public library computer 2 neighborhoods over. Maggie said. Vera's voice was tight. They said these things take time. Maggie was quiet for a moment. Outside, a car passed slowly on Caldwell Street, its headlights sweeping across the ceiling. Vera, she said, I need you to write down everything you just told me. Dates, names, what you saw, what you heard. Everything. A pause. Maggie, if he finds out, I know what it costs, Maggie said. I'm not asking you lightly. Another silence. Longer this time. Okay, Vera said. Okay. The folder had 31 pages by the following Friday. Maggie had organized it into 4 sections, with paper clips and small adhesive tabs she'd bought at the discount store for $1.19. Section 1, The Warnings, with the original protocol dates compared against the distribution log showing she was never notified. Section 2. The job posting, with the original qualifications and the modified version time-stamped 9 days after her application. Section 3. A table she had built herself, documenting 6 instances over 4 months in which white staff members had committed the same or greater infractions without receiving written warnings. She had the dates, she had the locations, she had written everything in her careful, even hand. Section 4. Vera's written account, 2 pages, signed and dated. On a Tuesday evening, she sat at the kitchen table with Darius across from her, both of them eating in comfortable silence, the smell of black-eyed peas and bay leaf rising from the pot on the stove. He was reading a library book about planets, propped against his water glass. He had a fruit snack in his jacket pocket that he'd been saving since lunch. He looked up. Quote, 94. She looked at him. Quote, 95. He shrugged. Quote, 96. She looked down at her bowl. He was right. Quote, 97. Quote, she said. Quote, 98. Quote, she met his eyes, serious, clear, 8 years old, and already reading rooms the way she'd had to learn to read them at 30. Yes, she said. He nodded. He went back to his book. After a moment, he said, without looking up, "You'll figure it out." She picked up her spoon. She opened her laptop with her other hand and navigated to the district superintendent's public contact page. She began to type. Superintendent Carol Anand received the email on a Wednesday evening at 6:43 at her desk in the district office on the 4th floor of a building that smelled permanently of printer toner and old carpet. She had been about to leave. Her coat was already on. The sender address was one she didn't recognize. The subject line read, "Documentation, Harwell Elementary. For your review." She sat back down. The attachment was 43 pages. She opened it and began to read. And she did not stop reading for 22 minutes. And when she finished, she sat very still with her hands flat on the desk and her coat still on, and her coffee gone completely cold beside the keyboard. She had been investigating Harwell for 14 months. 3 anonymous complaints, patterns she could see but couldn't yet prove. She had needed one more piece, something documented, time-stamped, cross-referenced, airtight. She picked up her phone. She made 2 calls. Then she opened her calendar and cleared Friday morning. Maggie did not know any of this yet. What Maggie knew was that the 3rd written warning had arrived Thursday, slipped under the supply closet door the same way the first one had, as if the method itself was a message. This one cited a failure to complete the east stairwell cleaning log on a day when she had in fact completed it, signed it, and left it in the designated folder, a folder that was now, somehow, empty. She stood in the supply closet holding the letter. The smell of bleach was sharp in the small space. Her chest was very still. She placed the letter in the folder. 43 pages. That evening, Vera called. Vera said. Her voice was flat, controlled. Maggie was quiet. Vera's voice dropped. "I think this is it." "I know." "What are you going to do?" Maggie looked across the kitchen at Darius, asleep on the couch with his library book open on his chest, the rocket ship backpack on the floor beside him, where he dropped it when he came in. His fruit snack was still in his jacket pocket. He'd been saving it for 3 days. "I'm going to go," Maggie said. "That's all." "That's enough." She was up at 5:30 Friday morning. She made oatmeal with brown sugar, the smell of it filling the apartment while the sky outside was still dark. She woke Darius gently, helped him find his other shoe, straightened his collar the way she always did. At the door, he looked up at her. "Will you come get me after?" "I'll come get you after." She touched his face briefly with one hand. "Save your snack." He nodded seriously, like it was a mission. She walked to school. 12 minutes. 3 flights of stairs. The broken elevator. The cold morning air against her face. The tote bag over her shoulder. The strap holding firm the way it always did. The iron-on hem tape still solid after 2 winters. She dropped Darius at the front office with his library book about planets. She watched him settle into a chair, open to page 41, already reading. Then she walked to the gymnasium and picked up her mop. She already knew how this was going to end. Whitmore stood at the front of the gymnasium with his leather portfolio open, and his voice filling the space with that particular warmth he deployed the way other men deployed silence, deliberately, and to control what happened next. After careful review, he said, and in accordance with district performance standards, the employment of Margaret Osei is terminated, effective immediately. 42 people sat in folding chairs and said nothing. The gymnasium smelled of floor cleaner and the ghost of Tuesday pizza still drifting from the cafeteria vents. The floor near the far wall was faintly damp, where Maggie had been working when they called her in. She leaned the mop against the bleacher frame. She reached for the dark green tote bag. She set it beside her on the bleacher and straightened up and folded her hands and looked at Whitmore with the steady, unhurried expression of someone who had already decided exactly how this was going to end. Vera, in the second row, did not look away. Whitmore cleared his throat. I want to be clear that this process has been... The gymnasium door opened, not loudly, just opened. But every head turned. Superintendent Carol Anand walked in. Behind her, 2 people from the district office in dark coats and a woman none of them recognized carrying a leather document case and a State Board of Education lanyard. Whitmore stopped talking. The room held its breath. Anand did not look at Whitmore. She walked directly to the center of the gymnasium floor, her heels quiet and precise on the polished surface, and she looked at Maggie. Ms. Osei, she said. Just that, like a door opening. Maggie met her eyes. She nodded once. Anand turned to Whitmore. Her voice was measured, completely without performance. Mr. Whitmore, the termination notice you just read aloud is voided, effective this moment, pending a full district review. She paused. You are placed on administrative leave, beginning now. The room made a sound. Not words, just air, shifting. Whitmore's hands went very still at his sides. Quote, 119, quote, 120, Anand said. She turned to the woman with the document case. A brief nod. The woman opened the case and removed a folder. Not Maggie's folder, but one assembled from the same material, cross-referenced and marked with district review tabs. The assistant principal posting for this school, Anand said, was modified after Ms. Osei's application was received in a manner that the State Board has identified as discriminatory in the record. Ms. Osei's application is formally reinstated and flagged for expedited review. Vera pressed her hand over her mouth. Her shoulders shook once, then steadied. Whitmore looked at the folder, then at Maggie. Something moved across his face, recognition, maybe. The particular recognition of a man who had miscalculated the weight of what he was standing on. Maggie did not look at him. She reached into the dark green tote bag and placed her 43-page folder on the bleacher beside her. She had not needed to open it, but she wanted it visible. She had carried it for 6 weeks. It had done its work. Anand looked at her once more. Thank you, Ms. Osei. Thank you, Maggie said quietly, for coming. 40 minutes after the gymnasium emptied, Maggie walked through the front office door. The room smelled of copy paper and the last of the morning coffee burning at the bottom of the pot. Darius was in the chair by the window, his library book open across his knees, Page 57. A diagram of Saturn's rings. The fruit snack was still in his jacket pocket. He had saved it all morning. He looked up when she came in. He studied her face the way children study faces, completely, without pretending not to. Quote, 126, he asked. She looked down at him. Quote, 127, she said. Quote, 128. He stood up. He put his hand in hers. He didn't ask anything else. 6 weeks later, Maggie O.C. began her first day as assistant principal of Harwell Elementary School. She arrived 20 minutes early. She wore a dark blazer over a blouse the color of deep water, and new shoes, leather, low-heeled, the first pair she had bought for herself in 3 years, the leather still stiff and slightly squeaking on the hallway floor. Old habits. She made coffee in the main office. She straightened the chairs in the conference room. She checked that the supply closet on the second floor was properly stocked. Vera appeared in the office doorway at 7:40, coat still on, a stack of reading folders under one arm. She looked at Maggie behind the desk. She didn't say anything for a moment. Just looked. Quote, 129, quote, she said finally. Maggie looked up. Quote, 130, quote. Vera smiled, the full kind, the kind she hadn't used much in a while, and went to her classroom. Harlan Whitmore did not return to Harwell. The district review, combined with the state board's findings on the altered job posting and the pattern of documented conduct, resulted in his permanent separation from the district. He did not contest it publicly. The school board members who had protected him quietly distanced themselves in the way that people do when the ground shifts and they need to be standing somewhere else. Mrs. Patterson, the reading specialist who had left 3 years earlier, was contacted by the district. She was offered a formal acknowledgement and a conversation about returning. She said she would think about it. Dolores, the administrative assistant who had printed the distribution log without asking questions, received a small handwritten note in her inbox one morning. It said, "Thank you for your kindness. It mattered more than you know." She kept it in her desk drawer. That afternoon, at 3:15, the front entrance bell chimed, and Darius came through the door with his rocket ship backpack and his library book tucked under his arm, the iron-on patch still slightly lifting at one corner. He found his grandmother in the hallway outside the main office, talking with a cluster of third graders who had gathered around her the way children gather around people who make them feel safe. Without thinking about it, without being asked. He stopped. He watched her for a moment. Then he walked over and stood beside her, and she put her hand briefly on his shoulder without breaking the conversation, and he stayed there, just stayed, because this was where she was. He looked up at her once. Then he said, quietly, to no one in particular, "I knew they'd figure it out. If this story moved you, hit the like button and subscribe. There are 2 more stories waiting for you on screen right now. And tell us in the comments, what would you have done in her place?"